Mr. Thompson said there's no money left for us. He's lying on the news and he lost the workers' trust. The bills are rising but not our pay. We'll work much later if they get their way. Here we stand for our rights on their land. We will fight, we band together, and they'll remember we are part of the union. We are part of the union. We are part of the union. These greedy corporates make us work more for less. They won't pay our sick leave and don't care about our stress. So make some noise and hold up your signs. Use your voice to change Thompson's mind. Here we stand for our rights on their land. band together and they'll remember we are part of the union. We are part of the union. We are part of the union.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. Firstly, to thank CW member and postal worker Joe Massey from Debden Delivery Office for singing us in there. Joe, there's over 11,000 people live. I think that's your biggest gig so far, mate. Well done to you. Delighted to have you all on with us tonight. It's a massive session, really, really important one, obviously, off the back of the postponement of the action on Friday. But more importantly, that really, for it to be able to set out the next steps in our dispute and how we bring Royal Mail Group back to the negotiating table and how we win this dispute. So delighted on that note to be joined by our General Secretary, Dave Ward. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, everyone.
And also our Deputy General Secretary, Postal, Terry Pullinger. Good evening, Terry.
Good evening.
It's good to have you both with us. Obviously, even better, though, to have the thousands of you as members on with us. It's a hell of a turnout. Something must be going on this evening then, which is great. So what I'm going to do is obviously give Dave and Terry the chance to set the scene a little bit and cover one or two bits. But moreover, it's your session. We've got tons and tons of questions that have already been submitted. Obviously, I'll have a few for both Dave and Terry, and then you can put them in the comments and we'll pick up as many as we can. I have to say, there's so many comments in here, by the way, that's going to be a bit difficult tonight, but we'll make sure that every single thing that is covered in terms of the dispute and where we are and where we've come from and where we want to end up. So whilst I'll hand over to Dave to kick off the session, if that's okay, I just ask you to let us know where you're watching from. Let us know that you're still behind the union, whatever it takes, and I'll get the best of those comments up. A short introduction, Dave, from you, if I can. And I suppose if I can ask both you and Terry in your opening to touch on last Friday and, and the postponement of the action in your introduction.
Yeah, okay. So first of all, thanks for the continuing support of our members. It's been incredible solidarity that's being shown right across the UK. There's no other union that can produce that type of solidarity. And yeah, let's get straight into the reason why we cancelled Friday's strike. And we know that a lot of you are not happy about that. And I think the context really is that, there was never going to be a decision that we made on Friday that everybody was going to be happy about. There was no way that you're going to get everybody in the same place on that particular issue. It's a decision that wasn't done in any shape or form to help Royal Mail. It was done having considered the reality of where we were, very sad news about the passing of the Queen, knowing that if we want to win this dispute in the longer term, we must continue to keep the public on board with our members. And the decision that we took, which was endorsed unanimously by the Postal Executive, was one that was about winning the dispute and not seeing it as just one day. And, the honest position is this, guys, is that you're never going to win a dispute like we're involved in at the moment based on one strike and what happens on that particular day. It's about a number of things coming together. And we've got to look at this now, that we're in it for the long haul. We really are. There'll be plenty of other opportunities to take strike action. I'm sure that we'll discuss that tonight. But we also want to talk to you about some other issues that are right at the heart of this dispute now. We want to talk to you about how we're going to put more pressure on the company in negotiations, particularly to get the highest level of talks going, rather than what's been happening over the last 6 months, where the company keep down dialing the people that they're putting in the room, which tells us that they're not serious about winning the dispute. We've got to talk about what are the implications of the takeover bid. We're not running away from that at all. We're going to tackle that head on. We've written to the company tonight, setting out our concerns again. But we've also got to talk about the union needs to be in a place where it's putting forward solutions to the dispute. And all of this, we're happy to discuss with you tonight. We'll keep working on. And my message, and I know Terry will be in the same place, and all of our executive are, we're going to win this dispute. But we've got to keep all parts of the dispute moving forward. And, that's where we are. Let's have a good conversation tonight about all of the issues, including Royal Mail's very one-sided view of the financial position of the company, which we can answer very easily.
Thank you, Dave. Terry, I'm going to ask you to say a few words before I do. I'll let you know that we've got absolutely thousands of people online. So please, make that more, tag your friends, share the link. Let's get as many CW members as we can online tonight. Over to you, Terry.
Yeah, all right, Chris. And I do want to sort of touch on, us calling off the action, really, and ask people to understand that it's not looking for any justification on our part. It was 100% the right call. We live in a society now where respect, dignity, honour, values don't seem to matter. That's why we're in dispute. The way companies and billionaires running these companies are treating people. And that I don't believe we're working class people are. I think we show more class than any of those people. And I think we showed that class when we called off the industrial action last Thursday. And I'd ask people to think about this as your leadership. 1 in 9 people in this country work for Royal Mail Group. And we are, by definition, then a reflection of society. So if you can see the outpouring of affection and the mourning process that's going on as a consequence of the Queen passing away, then you will know we were absolutely in the right place with the citizens of the United Kingdom and where they are at this moment in time. And we are the Royal Mail. So there is no question that it would have been a massive own goal, apart from being wrong and not the classy thing to do, to continue with a strike action. We have got massive support on our picket lines from the public, massive support for this organisation, which is of incredible national interest. So, our heritage and the fact that we've been connected to the royal family for over 500 years isn't a weakness in our dispute. In fact, it's one of the strengths that this role we play in society, and the fact that it is the Royal Mail, where any company that has royal attached to it, it's meant to be an honour. It's meant to be almost like a knighthood. Now, it's been privatised and things like that, but we are still the Royal Mail. And what's being planned for us, I think, and the decision we took last week, the fact that we showed our respect and everything else, people know that we are decent people. And as I say, we're classy people. And the company goes low, we go high. When I talk about the connections, I've been watching some of the footage. And when the Queen was flown back from Kenya in 1952, because the King had died and she was to become Queen, she flew back in a Royal Air Mail plane. And Prince Charles, who is now King Charles, during the pandemic, unsolicited by anybody, he made a decision to come out and praise Royal Mail. Of all the key workers, and lots of them were getting plaudits, perhaps not always us, and National Health, absolutely rightly so, but he come out and decided to do that, make a video and sent a letter. And I want to tell everyone what he said in that letter: the dedication and resilience and hard work of postal workers. You compare that to what the company's been saying about our people, not working hard enough, overpaid. The incredible value that you bring to society. You've never been more important. Trusted figures in our society. A constant presence in an ever-changing world. The only human some people see on a daily basis is their postal worker. And I say this to everyone. He showed absolutely respect to every one of our members, and the Royal Mail, the service itself, and so he's paid respect to our trade union. And last week we paid respect to him, his mum, and the nation's Queen. And I don't think we've got anything to apologise for that. It was absolutely the right thing we should have done, even if it didn't get us any brownie points. But I know the public will be right behind us. In terms of our fight and on the picket lines, the people have been magnificent wherever I've been. They're not complaining. They know this is a long dispute. They know there's nothing in it for them in these proposals that the company's put on the table and the way we're being treated. And I think public opinion, society's opinion on many levels is we are in the right place at the right time. And the longer we're prepared to go, the longevity of our determination we'll win us this dispute. And along the way, you have to make tactical decisions. That was one day of strike. There's going to be far more days of strike unless these people move and do the right thing and sit down and negotiate with us. So don't worry about any of that, but just focus on the fact we are a class organisation. We've now demonstrated it and proved it to everybody. And I think it absolutely gives more credence to everything we're saying in your defence and the defence of this magnificent public service.
Thank you, Terry. That's brilliant. Thank you to all the members who are commenting and supporting what Dave and Terry have set out there. It's overwhelmingly positive, which is fantastic. Keep sharing, keep tagging your colleagues. Let's get more people on here as we set out the next steps in the dispute. Just a question apiece, really, on the postponement, because I do want to move us on to the wider agenda because we've got some critical stuff to talk about tonight. Dave, if I come back to you first. And once we announced the dispute, obviously Royal Mail kicked in their communications, and there was something in the communications where they were saying, like, our priority was now to clear up the dispute and get the Mail back on track and stuff like that. And there was just a couple of bits and bobs on workplace, and people were saying, like, oh, we've helped them out by calling off this strike. What would you say to our members who are like a bit upset really about it? I suppose class is a word I can see in the comments here from our members about the union. So I suppose I would say lack of class from the company.
Well, I mean, the company are insincere about, their position. Everything Royal Mail has been doing since the start of this dispute, going right the way back to January, something which I'm sure we'll talk about later on tonight, has lacked honesty, has lacked transparency and integrity. And everything they do is to kind of manufacture the position that suits the narrative that they've been trying to create. So, shame on them in that way, that they decided to do that when the Queen passed away. But we're in a different place as a union. We think about disputes and how you win disputes. And the decision that we took was in the long-term interest of our members and customers. And, as Terry said, to show our respect for the connection with Royal Mail. That will all help us win the dispute. The company were in the wrong place. The CWU is in the right place.
Thanks, Dave. Terry, one of the things that I suppose is setting out, the dispute, and you talked about tactics in your introduction. Obviously, two stakeholder groups I want to talk about now. One, the public, and how vital it is we maintain their support and increase it if we can. And the second is the media and how we, continue to expose Royal Mail in the media and continue to set out our own argument in the media. And obviously on Friday, we would have had a complete blackout from that because, with the period of mourning that came into place, there was no other news that would have been covered. So just how important is it from your perspective that, we make sure we keep the public on side and we use the media where we can?
Yeah, of course, it's key because, we know our arguments are the right arguments. So in terms of Royal Mail, we've talked about the class bit, they go low, we go high. And I think that's what working people do. And by the way, I think you mix with these people at the top and these billionaires and these board members. I think you're intellectually bored and morally sickened by them. They're showing no sympathy at all to postal workers, that are struggling in a cost of living crisis, and they've only given them 2% pay rise. While they've been, we know stuffing their pockets with gold, stuffing their mouth with bonuses. They know they're doing these things. It's an arrogance, as I think Dave said, an arrogance and a hypocrisy that is not just touching Royal Mail at the moment. It's touching all parts of society. And I believe there's definitely a shift on that. So I think we're in the mainstream, if you like, or the start point of not just trade unions, but society rejecting the fact that the wealth gap's getting bigger and bigger and services are getting worse and worse and companies are having to close, shops are having to shut, etc., etc. Poverty's on the rise. People having to have sort of, food banks and stuff like that in this, it's disgraceful in this country. So I think they're in the wrong place. Excuse me. Sorry about that. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we're in the best place. But you cannot take public support for granted we've got massive public support, but we would be arrogant ourselves if we took that for granted. So I don't think we're in that place. I think we've got massive support, judging by the support on the picket lines. But other examples of Royal Mail, that day they chose to put out loads of leaflets around everyone's tills or workplaces, didn't they? Benches or whatever. Stupid little sayings on them. Even to the point, someone said someone on a picket line, like, I don't know, about their haircut or your beard or whatever, that they're deliberately trying to turn into issues to make postal workers look bad people, to make trade unions look bad people. They're not going to do it. They're not going to be able to shift the spotlight that we have now put on these people. And if we're going to win this dispute, we're going to have to take action for sure. And as we get closer to Alton Pressure, and all the big days that all the other companies are going to want to push, whatever they are, Cyber Friday, Black Monday, whatever they are, they're going to be worried. They're already worried. Now, if we'd have been on strike last Thursday, we'd still be where we are now, where we've got another 2 days coming up. As it happens, we wasn't. And it wasn't just for anything. It was a massive, historical, significant moment, and a tactical decision, and the right decision had to be made, the respectful decision, and we made it. I think we are stronger than ever now, and people have got to believe it. If, as I say, as long as it's the longevity of our determination and our resilience, if you like, as the King Charles said about us, we show that resilience in this dispute. There's no doubt we will win this dispute, because at some point something's got to give. You've got the National Health being balloted. You've got the Fire Brigade now being balloted. You've got barristers out on indefinite action. You've got RMT has already taken action. You've got the Post Office. You've got BT. You've got other areas of the public sector as well. The civil servants are now balloting. They know you've got a new Prime Minister. We've had this massive historical event. What are they going to do? I think the pressure's building on them, and certainly the pressure's building on Royal Mail. What are we standing for? What have we got to be embarrassed about? Absolutely nothing. We're defending decent, honest, working people, and we're defending a magnificent public service, which will be lost if these people get their proposals through. And we're not going to let them. We'll win. Thanks, Terry. Fantastic. A lot of people are asking, by the way, was that Simon Thompson on the phone ringing you to try and get back into talks? But I'm not sure it was, mate. Dave, firstly, today we want to move on from that now, because I have to say, obviously, you two guys don't have the benefit of being able to see the comments during this session, but the support for the union is undoubtedly and unequivocally outstanding, and people are very supportive of the position taken by the executive to postpone the action. So thank you to all of our members for that. The other thing to say is that if you are still with the union, obviously we know Royal Mail Group will be watching this section. Just simply put, I'm with my union in the comments now. I'm with my union, and I'll get as many of those up on screen as I can. Whilst you're doing that and you're letting everyone know you're still with the union, then Dave, I'm going to come to you if I can and talk about the issue of the takeover. You touched on it. Terry touched on it. Royal Mail, they issued something to the stock exchange, basically saying that it's totally untrue what you were saying and what we were saying in the press. What would your response to that be, and what's your view on the potential takeover of Royal Mail?
Well, we're going to keep on raising our concerns because we think that it's part of the reason why the company have got itself in the position that they've been in on the change agenda. So, let's go back to January, where things seemingly started to go wrong. So we had an agreement with a company, Pathway to Change. They clearly stalled on the forward planning of Pathway to Change. They then have walked away from the whole agreement, and they've set themselves a narrative which kind of makes you believe that it was heading towards this type of takeover. There's no coincidence that when we raised this with a company on the 24th of August, the next response we got actually from them when they were doing live interviews, they didn't have any response. They clearly showed they weren't telling the truth in the way they responded in live interviews. But their next response, and it can't be a coincidence, was that the government and the company issued a statement to the City of London saying that what we were saying is true, is that there is a company, private equity investment group called Vaser, who want to increase their stake and take over Royal Mail. So, we don't believe a single word that Royal Mail are putting forward. We've written to the company tonight. They may say that what we're saying in the letter that we published to the Secretary of State, Simon Thompson saying it's a disgrace. He said it to me and Terry when we met him. We're saying, well, we're going to keep on raising it. So, you're going to have to get more and more unhappy about the situation. We're going to raise it wider afield. We've got our lawyers engaged on it now. We will be hopefully meeting the government to get to the bottom of it. And we're demanding as well in the letter that we've written to the company tonight. We've told the company we'll be writing to them separately. We want to meet every single board member. We want to meet the chair. We want to meet Thompson again on these issues because, they've got to start telling the truth of what's actually been going on behind the scenes. Now, none of that takes away the fact that their change agenda and elements of that agenda are unacceptable to the union. But I think it does start to explain what may have been lurking in the background. And it does seem to us, including the way they're positioning the finances of the company at the moment. I hope we get a chance to talk about that in a minute. It seems to us that it's all been kind of geared up to do the dirty work now and then hand over to this other company. And what we'd say to our members is we ain't running scared of that debate at all. We're going to keep raising it. They're going to have to keep getting the ump with us raising it. And we'll get to the bottom of it at some point. And we think that will help us find out if there is any potential for a solution to this dispute. As it stands at the moment, you've got to conclude, and me and Terry were speaking about this earlier on today, before we wrote the letter to Thompson, that they don't want an agreement and that they're stalling for time in order to get to the point of the actual takeover. Because let's face it, we don't know whether the people we're talking to are even going to be there at the end of this. So it's a really difficult one, but our position is the right one again. And we, our members know that, and I think the public know that as well.
Well, thank you, Dave. Terry, Dave touched on the finances, so I'll bring that one up next. If you look through the background of the huge profit, huge shareholder dividend, huge executive bonus, huge share issues to the executive, and then literally weeks later, we're in crisis, we're losing £1 million a day. It does start to have the feel of, a situation created perhaps to create the environment for a takeover. But, Royal Mail are hammering our members on this. We're losing £1 million a day. The union doesn't understand. The union's being ignorant. We're going to sort of run the company into the ground. What would your take beyond, the financial position and the affordability of our claim for a proper pay rise for our members?
Well, first of all, our members should have a decent pay rise. There is no question about it. And 2%, whatever negotiations we're having about change, but I'll touch on that in a minute. They deserve more than 2%. There's other people been offered more than that and rejected it. It's ridiculous when you look where inflation is at this moment in time, and it's totally unacceptable. People deserve it. Even in businesses that are in recovery, as we were in Parcelforce for years, we still gave people pay rises. You plan your way out of a particular situation. On their finances now, listen, I'm no financial expert, but we come from the University of Life, don't we? And we know the score, figures lie and liars figure. And accounts can be presented in lots of different ways. In other ways, I'll tell you now, if they were selling Royal Mail now, they'd be showing what an excellent business it is and what great prospects it has. And that's what we believe as well. And for everyone who's trying to make some sense of this, I'll say this to them. When we made the Pathway to Change agreement, they were predicting between £500 and £600 million losses. They were also touting at the time the very same proposals we're dealing with now under Rico Beck's plan. And that is basically to set up a parcel company and gradually detach all your most profitable bits and leave the public service bit and the USO, which clearly is not a commercial offering, leave that out on its own. And if anything, eventually try and give that back to government. They're not bothered about it. They just want the most profitable bits. And that's why suddenly they've split totally, saying GLS is nothing to do with Royal Mail. There'd be no cross-subsidy. Royal Mail was privatised as a group. And what fascinates me with that is when they announced 700 £56 million profit. They didn't break, they didn't say, and some of that's over there, and that's GLS over there. And by the way, your share dividend is going to be shaped not on the 760, but on a lower figure. No, they didn't do that, did they? All their dividends were based on the 756 million, probably all their pay rises and all their bonuses that all the managers and the board and everyone else has got is on the back of the group's performance, not just on Royal Mail. So, their position, what won't ever make sense to anybody is why millions and millions of pounds, it's over 700 million pound now since July 21, has been given to shareholders. 700 million pound, over 700 million pound. All the money that's gone to bonuses, to managers' pay rises. All the money they're spending, two bonuses, local managers as well. One if you work through the dispute, if you like. But they got no money. All the money they're pulling up for agencies and contingency arrangements, which actually ain't touching the service and never will. Millions and millions of pounds they're spending. This is, it's in my opinion, this is being deliberately set up to do exactly what I said, to start isolating and taking out all the most profitable bits and then leave the rest to die. Leave the rest, and at the very last, if people still want some sort of universal service, it won't look anything like it does today, and they'll be trying to hand that back to government saying they can't do it. This is not people that are looking at Royal Mail Group and saying, how can it be successful and how can it serve the purpose and ensure and cross-subsidise and ensure we've got our amazing universal service, which isn't just letters, of course, it's packets as well, etc. All other major companies cross-subsidise, and they should be doing the same. And really, this should be a wake-up call for government. It should be a wake-up call for people of all political persuasion, and it should be a wake-up call to the people, including the new king, by the way, who extremely value this great public service, Royal Mail, because we're going to end up just like all the other utilities. We're going to end up being owned by people who don't even reside in the United Kingdom. And the same argument that we, aimed at Rico back at the time, how can you possibly have any empathy with what this is? We're going to end up in the same place if we don't fight, but we're going to fight. As for the new owners, like Visa or anyone else, once we were privatised, we was always going to be open to that. And it is a major issue in here, and we're absolutely right to be trying to expose what's going on and how much the board knew and everything else. But I tell you, from a union point of view, so we're dealing with it. We're absolutely on it. You've seen, couldn't have been more blunt on our view about that as a trade union, and they've got the and threatening all sorts of stuff. But the other thing they need to know, Visa or anyone else thinking of investing here because the shares are cheap at the moment, come in and buy them because they're going to muller this trade union and it's going to make massive profits. Well, you better wake up because we ain't going nowhere. So whoever owns this business, whoever does, we will always be here and we will constantly fight to get this renationalised, because that's the only way to truly protect it and make sure the people of the United Kingdom gets this magnificent postal service and the social inclusion it brings to everybody for whatever reason who is isolated in the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Terry. Brilliant, buddy. Dave, quite a few members are asking both of you around the option of talks where we are. I know you just set out that yourself and Terry have written to Royal Mail Group today a little bit about, obviously, our objective isn't to keep going on strike. Our objective is to use the members, the leverage created by the members to bring the company back to the table to settle this dispute. Have you got an update on the members on the talks and how you, Terry, see those shaping up, what your aspirations are?
Yeah, well, we met Royal Mail the other week, and the union created the initiative for that to happen. It's quite clear that Simon Thompson, has been playing games for some time about who should be at meetings, who shouldn't be at meetings. And, all we want to say to our members tonight everywhere is that the union's job is to get an agreement. And we're going to continue to take the high moral ground on that. When we met them, it started out with Simon Thompson pleading poverty. We put the other side of that coin in terms of the real context of where the company are. So, we all knew that if they walked away from an agreement that was designed to address the immediate financial outlook and future outlook of the company, then they were going to be in problems in the same way that all companies are in the middle of a cost of living crisis and in a post-pandemic era. So we put out the fact, and it's important that the record profits is the other side of that coin. The big money that was given away to shareholders, the record bonuses that they've got for actually hitting their financial targets. And let's not forget, they've got a very, very strong balance sheet at the moment. They've got a great asset base, and they've got fixed pension costs better than they've ever had, with both schemes currently in a healthy surplus situation. So the point we made in response to that is that you can afford to put more money on the table. Let's be honest, the group Vaser wouldn't be looking to buy Royal Mail if they thought it was a basket case. They know all the things that we've just been speaking about, so they see it in the wider picture. And we made it clear to the company that we were willing to put a constructive approach forward that would involve us working on a joint statement. There would be compromises in that, as there always is on both sides, in order to try and get proper negotiations going. We did say to the company, you're going to have to come up with more money, and you're going to have to show our members that there's more money on the table. They actually said in the meeting that they're willing to put more money on the table. And the company have gone on and said that in press releases. I think they're using the phrase, there's more money for more change. Well, we're in this for more money for our members, and we are definitely in this to create the right change that's in the interest of the long-term future of our members, the long-term future of customers, and we're still in the place where we want the company to succeed. So it was a rounded discussion. I think what's important is that following that discussion, Simon Thompson wrote what was a pretty stupid letter that was really showing his anger about where we are because we flushed them out over the Vaser situation. And on that, if they think we're not telling the truth, we'll come and meet us then with the board, with the chair, stop hiding away, and let's have a proper discussion with the board on that. Equally, if they really feel that way, they'll take us to court, won't they, for libel. So, we pretty much told them that as well. That may happen, let it happen. We're going to stick to what we've been saying. We're raising the right concerns, but we did offer a constructive way forward. And we've written to them again today, asking for further talks, and we will be setting out a position. We'll all be looking at that, the executive, the officers, all of us, that we'll write to the company before the next strikes take place. And there's a window now to do that. And we'll set out the position that we believe can move this dispute forward, both in terms of pay and change. So, we're in the right place on that as well. What the company are doing is just playing games. And I keep coming back to this point. It makes you think more and more that they're stalling for the outcome of the government's investigation into this takeover bid.
Thanks, Dave. Excellent, buddy. Terry, on the other side of the talks, I can see in the comments, and I can see online over the last sort of couple of months, we have a wide range of opinions from our members on potential action. We have some members going, let's go out tomorrow and stay out forever until the dispute's won. We have people obviously who are severely concerned around the impact of the cost of living crisis on their life. And some people feel we might lose a bit of momentum by leaving a couple of weeks between the action and stuff. A couple of questions, really. Will the Postal Executive and yourselves consider a day of action that replaces the one that was postponed on Friday on pay? And will you, at any point in the near future, be naming additional strike actions on top of the ones which we've already named for the 30th of this month and the 1st of October? Over to you, Terry.
Yeah, well, we've already given notice, Chris. We've got 2 days coming up on the 30th of this month and the 1st of October. So other than that day, it's still the programme of action that we've laid out. You've got to remember, you have to give 2 weeks notice. So you'd nearly be there now. So no, I don't think at the moment there's any plan to that. We've strategized every week. We've talked to the executive. We're going back to the business again. But we're trying to do it in such a way that we do get longevity in terms of our determination, in terms of our respect for our members, and also longevity to the dispute, because at the moment there's all signs it could go on for a long time. So right into autumn pressure. So, we need to manage that situation. We're making our point. It's not good for them, is it? And it's certainly not good for us. So, there'll be more action as and when we announce it. We've still got 2 live ballots here. We've got 2 disputes that have got to be resolved, albeit they'll be resolved simultaneously. And they need to make moves on both pay and in respect to the change. I'd say this about the change is, at the moment, we, the union, are the only ones with progressive ideas for change. And those progressive ideas were the subject of a policy forum back in March, I think it was, with all our reps and everyone. We was all debating 7-day working, the parcels, the shift parcels, letters, etc. The more we can do on foot, because there's no doubt about it. I believe that this business, Royal Mail Group, has a massive opportunity, massive potential in the Pathway to Change agreement. We are going to be the main serious contender for governments and anyone else who's interested in it in respect to the green agenda, because there's nothing greener than delivering on foot. It's finding new ways to do that and move forward the green agenda. We are a serious challenge to people like Amazon, DPD, these other companies. DPD, everyone talks about, they don't shift anywhere near the amount of traffic that we do in the Royal Mail Group. So, we think we're in a good position. We've got all the new ideas in our policy forum document. So it's a 90-page document of ideas that the union put forward. All they've done is blown the dust off of proposals that Rico Backhead in terms of tracking people around their daily lives, annualised hours, bringing in new entrants on less money, pulling up the ladder on the next generation, making everything later in the day, setting up a parcel company that works closer with GLS really, and then sits on top of this great public service while you run the rest of it down. They're the exact same proposals that we rejected. And don't forget that you've had your chance to vote on them, because our second change ballot was a 98.7, 1.73% short of 100%. It's supporting the union and opposing them changes. So their workforce has spoken, but their arrogance is, we don't care what the workforce have said. Even in them levels of vote, we don't care what they say. Now, they've learned this lesson over the years, and they really know it. If they can park their arrogance, there is no prospect of moving this Royal Mail Group forward without the support of the people who work in it and without the support of this trade union. They won't do it. They tried on a number of occasions. So I don't know why they think, where they get their arrogance from, that they're suddenly just going to steamroller over 115,000 postal workers. And I strongly believe a lot of this, what's inspired this sort of behaviour, because it wasn't there until this year. There's no doubt about that. We were getting on fine. It wasn't there. This has been inspired by P&O and the lack of the government to get hold of these employers that break the law and just steam over people. No democracy. You just do as you're told. And they're trying to follow suit. And I think lots of people are trying to follow suit. And I think Royal Mail Group and the board have looked at this and thought, there's a financial crisis, so people won't be able to take strike action, is their hope, or you won't be able to sustain it. P&O didn't get done, didn't get taken into court, didn't get prosecuted, even though the CEO admitted to a select committee that he broke the law and would break the law again, and then didn't get prosecuted. And that lit the touch paper for all the behaviours we're seeing where employers think they can just impose a pay rise and then just steam on with it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So will there be more strike days? Absolutely, Chris. Will our people get behind it? Will our people have tough times? Yes, they will have tough times if you keep losing money. No one can afford losing money at the moment. And all of us, don't forget, in the union, we're all giving up our money every day. Everyone else is out on strike. We're giving our money up. So we keep it relevant. That's the type of trade union we are. And I've said this to people on the picket line, so I'll say it to everyone tonight. Listen, you may get in lumber over finances. It might be the right time to go and approach your mortgage provider. Approach your creditors, tell them you need to pay a bit less or whatever. They are doing all those things at the moment because of the cost of living crisis in any event. So you may not have a bit more money and you may have to recover from that at some point. But I tell you what, you never recover from. You never recover if you sell your dignity and your self-respect and just let these people do it. You never recover from that, because once you've traded that, it's gone. And the other thing I'd say to people, this is an industrial war, and there's been many before, and many of our forefathers in this union have fought for that as well. But it ain't like the war in Ukraine, Chris, is it? This ain't going to kill you. What this is going to do is just make sure your pride and dignity is intact, and you say, we know what you're up to, we know what you're trying to do, and we ain't going to swallow it. We're not having it. We're standing up. So yes, and I believe that's where our members are. We've got public support. On every picket line, I've got the sense that's exactly where our members are. And the longer this goes on, I think the more our people will dig in, and we're in it for the long game, because we are going to win it. So the answer to your question is yes. I think unless they come to the table and seriously negotiate and take away these ridiculous proposals and talk in line with the pathway to change agreement and give our members the decent pay rise they deserve, then you bet your life there'll be more action given by this executive.
Thank you, Terry. Brilliant. Couple more questions. Just to let everyone know as well, of course, we've got 2.5 weeks plus until the action. There's going to be loads of updates. We'll have the officers out. We'll do lots more videos and lots more content up you, picking up some of those individual issues that you've been raising throughout the evening. Dave, one of the questions that's been asked is, do we have any more plans over the next few weeks to expose Royal Mail in the media, apply pressure, any political plans, any plans to write to Jacob Rees-Mogg in his new role? Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? But strange thing to even say, isn't it? Let alone actually be a reality. But yeah, there we go. I mean, on the media as well, it's interesting. I think that yourself and Terry have done some great interviews, some great jobs. But I think from a head of comms perspective, my favourite CW spokesperson is Ricky McCauley. So thank you to Ricky. He's doing an outstanding job. But Dave, any more plans on the media or politically?
Yeah, so we will be seeking a meeting with Jacob Rees-Mogg. I think that'd be quite an interesting clash of cultures between myself and Terry and that sort of government figure who's now the Secretary of State for Business. We'd already written a letter to Kwasi, who's now the Chancellor. So you would hope that that's been passed on, but we'll make sure that he does see a copy of that letter as well. So it's important that we focus on what is the government's investigation. What are they actually looking at? How long is it going to take? Will we be able to give evidence as part of that investigation? Will the company be asked to give a view on whether or not they support a takeover? And truthfully, we're going to have to get lawyers engaged in taking those issues forward. We'll be talking about that more in the media. We'll be making sure that our position is understood across the public as well. And I think there's room here for our own members as we start to communicate and we give you a role in explaining the position to the public and to the businesses. Royal Mail won't like that, but so what? We'll do it because it's important that we all strive to get the truth out in the open. So yes, being very clear with the media where this sits is exactly what we've done. They don't like it. You can see that. They only want to talk about change. They only want to talk about their financial position as they see it, not the true overall position that we've explained tonight. Whereas we've got to keep all things going in the media. We'll be writing articles. In terms of where the Labour Party are, we've had conversations. I've had a conversation with Keir Starmer. Obviously, last week, the first question was always going to be about where the cost of living crisis is. There's a new Prime Minister. But we expect Labour, make no mistake about this, to start asking some of the questions that the union has been asking. We expect them to start doing that directly with the ministers that are responsible and also in Parliament. So let that continue. We'll give you an update on some of that as well. But we're full on with the media and we want to create our position and get it out there as much as we can. And I'm sure our members can help us do that.
Thank you, Dave. Just one more question for each of you, and then I'm going to give you both a chance to sum it up. Terry, we've got, and we've tried to combat it, and we've seen, by the way, thank you to all of our reps who are in the comments, executive members, divisional reps, regional officials, etc. Replying to members, that's a real help as well. Some great work being done there. But a lot of people are asking Terry about the possibility of a work to rule. People saying that we're helping Royal Mail recover too quickly in between strike dates. What would your view be on that?
Well, you know, we can't do it, can we? You know, it would be considered a form of unofficial industrial action. We're having letters every day now from Royal Mail about whether it's picket line behaviour, people refusing to do overtime that they would normally do. Now, voluntary overtime is voluntary overtime, but if it's something people would normally pick up, and you know, if you're not very subtle about it, of course, or whatever, or if you are using it as to try and have an effect, you know, they will know, and they will try and claim it's unofficial industrial action. So I think it's a case of everyone trying to think a little bit like we're trying to do on a daily basis. And I'm not saying we're anything special, but you have to strategize, and there has to be tactics here. And your days of action are having an effect. And you've seen the amount of money they're paying out for agencies and everything else. Amount of money they're giving the managers in terms of bonuses just to be in there. So it's definitely having an effect. You know, at some point we may well step the action up, mightn't we? Depending on how this goes. So, but on things like that, on days when you're not on strike, you really should be working as normally as possible. Is our advice, because we haven't balloted on action short of strike action, on overtime bans, or on work to rules. We haven't done that. So, I mean, I totally understand our people. Some people may be less reluctant to help out, you know, withdraw their goodwill, for example. But there's a fine line. There's a fine line with that, because people are so angry and disgusted with their employer. I think some of that was already happening. So we will always challenge, but just, you know, there mustn't be a decision taken, you know, collectively by everyone to say we're not doing overtime or not working as we would normally work when we're not on a strike day, because that's not what we balloted on. And it would be irresponsible of me to say anything different from that. We don't want to put ourselves in a position where they try and injunct us on some reason or not, or some broad brush view that we're trying to encourage unofficial action that we've not balloted on taking place in this dispute. That won't do us any favours whatsoever. So use your loaf.
Thank you, Terry. In picking up on what just Terry said, David, another question that's coming through, or point that's coming through quite a lot, and Terry was saying about, you know, being smart and using tactics. And I think, you know, you've often used the phrase of you don't win disputes by putting your head down and running at them. But we've seen an increasing amount of executive action from Royal Mail, and that's obviously causing a lot of angst locally. What would your guidance be to members, you know, who are basically facing that in their offices right now?
Well, again, you know, I mean, for the time being, it's important that people maintain their discipline, but we've also got to be realistic at a national level that if we can't progress talks with a company, of which we will be asking, obviously, again, the company to cease executive action, and we've got to have a plan to deal with that. And I'm sure the executive will be considering that. We'll be consulting with branches. It may be that one of the plans that runs alongside the national strikes is that we start organising local disputes where executive action is taking place. And because I think what is important is that we maintain the integrity of the discipline and the legal position on the national dispute. So we are going to have to consider that going forward. There's no doubt about that. This just shows you, though, that, you know, where Royal Mail are at the moment, it is really about winding up our members. Their heads don't seem to be in, at this particular point, in settling this dispute. It seems to be in making sure that the membership are constantly having to deal with these problems. That's not on. So look, let's come up with a plan for that as well. And, you know, we are going to win this dispute. Of that, we've got no doubt whatsoever. These are not the smartest of people. They're doing many of the things that are quite predictable. We've seen that in the past. We will be putting them under enormous pressure, and we'll talk about that in the final comments, I'm sure, about our next steps.
Thank you, Dave. Terry, last question for you is one that's come up quite a few. It's a question of strike ideas from the members. Lots of people saying that they think we should be doing functional strikes, deliveries, one day distribution, network, etc. Is that in the thinking and consideration going forward for you and the executive?
Yes, on the table. People are thinking about it. You have to de-risk it, Chris, because, for example, you could have people in a processing centre who would be out one day, but the drivers under the roof in the same building will be out another day, which then causes all sorts of problems, picket line problems, etc. So, unfortunately, we live in a world where we've got law around industrial action, around trade union law, which is extremely difficult and deliberately designed to stop us being able to take strike action. We know that they've had us in court 2 or 3 times on different ballots. As it happens on these 2 ballots, they haven't. So we've learned some lessons along the way, or maybe they're adopting, a different tactic. So as I say, we're strategizing all the time. We're looking at the effectiveness of that. We've got people working on it, giving it strong thought. Whether at some point that would be, because I think that would be up in the ante on the business as well as managing people's the amount of money they're losing, etc. But we have to de-risk it. It would be crazy if we know this is going to be a long dispute. It would be crazy to do something that actually could bring our dispute to a quick end via a court. And we're sitting there with these people that are just every day are looking more and more like bullies who think they can just steamroll over us. So, as well as being classy, we got to be savvy, as I think Dave just said, and we have got to use our loaf here. So it is on the table. There's all sorts of things people are talking about and thinking about. We haven't just got one arm to our armory, if you like. We haven't just got one weapon in this industrial action. There may be all sorts of different things we can do, and we are thinking about it. We've got a subgroup thinking about it in detail, and if it's the time's right to do it, and we've managed all the risks, and people remain disciplined, because that will require our members to be disciplined if we do something like that, then there's every reason, there's every chance we may well use that tactic as well.
Thank you, Terry. Brilliant. So we're right at the end now of an excellent session. Thousands of you online, loads and loads of feedback. All of you almost to a person right beyond the union, which is fantastic. So if you're with your union now and you're ready for the 30th and you're ready for the 1st and you're ready for what comes after, simply put the word strike in the comments now. So I want to see as many strikes as possible in the comments, and we'll get them up on screen. Whilst you do that, just simply put strike in the comments. I'm going to ask for some closing words from Dave and Terry. Firstly, over to you, Dave.
Yeah, so tonight has been a good session. It's important that we were able to explain to you why we called off the strike. I think it seems from the comments that people understand that was necessary, even though some of you may not necessarily agree with it. I think you probably do recognise that if we're in this for the long haul, it was the right decision. We're going to be working on a proposal now for talks. We'll communicate with you further on where the union sees a solution to this dispute, because that's also important, particularly during the window between now and the next strikes. We'll set out very clearly, and we'll explain that to all of you, where we think we can go on change, where we think we can go on pay, and we'll be the party that puts forward a constructive approach to the company. We've also got a plan that we're going to deal with in terms of flushing out this position on the government investigation that is taking place over a potential takeover and what all the implications are on that. That means talking directly to the government. It means talking to politicians. We've got that plan underway. We've engaged lawyers to help us take that forward. We've got a plan for the public and keeping the media on board, and we'll talk to you further about that. And lastly, we've got to have a plan for further strikes, if needs be, in a measured way that take us right the way through to Christmas. And, you know, we're up for this. You're up for it. And as long as we stay solid and as long as we keep putting forward the truth and that we've got a wide-ranging set of plans as we've just set out, have no doubt about it, we are going to win this dispute. So thanks very much for your continued support and your solidarity. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Dave. Brilliant, mate. Thank you to everyone whacking the comments up. I'll keep getting them up while Terry closes out the session. Over to you, Terry.
Yeah, I just want to say, everyone, I think if you haven't already, I think our interface with the public is magnificent. I think we've probably strengthened our position and the respect the public have for you as postal workers. So I'm sure you're feeling that on the street, and I hope you are. And if you're asked about that, then you say what it is we're fighting for. We're fighting to protect this great public service, to ensure that everyone still gets a delivery, but we build a successful Royal Mail group. That's where the union stands. Tell them that we're honouring an agreement, and it's the management that are breaking that agreement, which they are. We're the people of honour in this dispute. The fact that you deserve a decent pay rise, and I don't think there's any member of the public that will say that you don't. But more than anything, support each other. Listen, there may be times for even greater motivational speeches, but at the moment, I think the motivation's there, judging by every experience I've had with the members on the strike days. They know these proposals are totally unacceptable. You all know that the pay is absolutely disgraceful, what they've offered you in pay. And they've called this on. They obviously want to test us and test our resolve. And I don't think we'll be found wanting. But talk to each other as members, keep motivating each other, keep helping people find solutions. If they are finding it a bit tough financially, give them some advice if you manage to sort something out, because we cannot back down here. There's nothing in this for you, none of you. There's nothing. You wouldn't thank this union for going in and doing a deal on those things that are there. Even when we do a deal, it's difficult enough. And when we do a deal, there'll probably be some of you don't like it. But even when we've got to deal with this employer, it's hard sometimes to deploy. People don't like change, etc., the normal stuff. But we did it during a pandemic, and it was very difficult. And there is a lot more mileage left in that agreement, and that is the path, not only to a successful Royal Mail group, but a consensus-driven change in Royal Mail Group. You're never just going to be able to bludgeon your way through and certainly treat postal workers like this. But if they're left to their own devices, the people that are now in the top positions in Royal Mail, barring about one, probably Ricky McCauley, who's certainly not where he is by being a TV star, put it that way. But all the other managers that are now in the top positions in Royal Mail Group, none of them have worked in this sector. Most of them seem to have come either from, the hotel sector or from the car factories and that sort of thing, and way they were run, and think that you can run Royal Mail in the same way. We've had them before. They've been here before. We've defeated them before. We will do it again. It just happens this time. We're having to flex our industrial muscle, and they're going to see the full strength of that. I'm sure of that. At the moment, we're right up there. There may be times, if this drags on, we have to motivate people. But if you're not motivated by what they're trying to do to you, how the way they're treating you, even in the workplace now, today, when you go back to work after that strike, etc., then I don't know, you might as well cave in. But the people I've met are not people who are going to spend their life on their knees, and we'd rather walk around forever with our head held high, knowing that we never swallowed it or we never let them steamroller us. Keep going, everyone. Stay strong. There is no chance that these people are going to beat us.
Thank you, Terry. Brilliant. So thank you to Dave and Terry, first of all, for your time tonight. It's been an excellent session. More than you, though, thank you to the literally tens of thousands of you who've joined us tonight. It's been an epic session, and the levels of respect between the members and the trade union is absolutely inspirational. So thank you to all of you who've come on. Thank you to the thousands of you who've gotten stuck in the comments as well. It's massively appreciated. Stick with the union. Loads more updates coming, and I think I'm going to put Joe back on to sing us out for the session and let Terry and Dave go.
Well done, Joe. Well done, Chris, as well.
No worries. Take it
Come
easy,
on,
everyone.
Joe. Make an album.
Mr. Thompson said there's no money left for us. He's lying on the news and he lost the workers' trust. The bills are rising, but not our pay. We'll work much later if they get their way. Here we stand for our rights on their land. We will fight, we band together, and they'll remember we are part of the union. We are part of the union. We are part of the union. These greedy corporates make us work more for less. They won't pay our sick leave and don't care about our stress. So make some noise and hold up your signs. Use your voice to change Thompson's mind. Here we stand for our rights on their land. We will fight, we band together, and they'll remember we are part of the union. We are part of the union. We are part of the union.